The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Rounding out November entertainment is Zach Sabbath on November 28th. Plus, don't forget to purchase your tickets to that Arena Rock Show's New Year's Eve party or dance the night away in the ESPN Sportsbook. Receive 2 complimentary drinks with each ticket purchased. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Comedian Paula Poundstone cracks up the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on November 21st and 22nd. I spoke to Poundstone when she previously played the Birchmere just after the 2020 presidential election, when she practically predicted things would get worse like the January 6th insurrection to come. And let's just say that a lot of troubling events have transpired in the 5 years since.
I'm happy to be here.
Here we are again. Now we're talking again with you after a completely different bonkers election. What's your thoughts on the past week of, it took 5 days for Biden to be declared the winner. President Trump still not conceding. What do you make of all of it?
It's insane. That's what it is. I was at the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia, in 2016. It was, the election, of course, was on a Tuesday, and then I was at the Birchmere on that weekend, and the whole crowd had this feeling that we would never recover, and little did we know that 4 years later we would still be climbing out of the morass. I don't even know what to make of it. I can't. Every day, it's hard to plan. You say, I think I'm going to do blah, 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 unless we're hiding from white gang members behind rocks. It's a crazy time. And, I have a theory that we should all be keeping journals for future generations, especially digestive journals, because I feel that people in the future need to know to what level we've been affected. I think that maybe Trump has some sort of investment in what kind of medicine with, pills for your digestion. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, everything has been affected.
Absolutely. How did you digest the election? Where did you watch the results come in? I guess it's different than past years. It wasn't just, one night event. It kind of drew out over a whole week.
Yeah. In fact, I watched on the night of the election, I watched on the NewsHour on my television until it got, really, really late. And boy, that Judy Woodruff was still there doing her job. But I'm like, you know what? And I knew, because they had said so on the NewsHour and they had said so on MSNBC. They did a good job, I thought, the news media, of telling people that we probably weren't going to know, on the first night. And so I went to bed the first night and I got up the next morning and I figured out how to make the news play through my iPhone, which I never had done before. And I put it in my pocket and I walked around with the news doing chores for the next, 3 days, 4 days? I don't even remember, but I watched.
Might have even been 5. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They called it Saturday. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I walked around with the news in my pocket, listening for about 4 days. I mean, if I walked too far from the house, the signal cut off. But for the most part, it was my constant companion. Little Steve Kornacki in my pocket. There's something about it that makes you want to go out and throw a ball around with him. He's got a very childlike countenance.
Right. It's gonna take months to pump all the coffee out of him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's impressive what him and John King and all those people at their magic boards. I don't know how they stood on their feet that long.
Yeah, well, I think I kept talking about Kornacki. I think would take little naps and stuff, but all of them. I mean, all those news people. I was amazed when Judy Woodruff was on the news like on Wednesday. I thought, well, surely she'll, they'll just because sometimes she does take a break and somebody else anchors that night. I thought, well, surely somebody else will anchor the far night, but there she was. First of all, you get the sense that somebody like her, anyways, they seem to live for this stuff. Right. So I think there's part of them that are citizens and feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening to our republic? And then there's part of them that are like, oh boy, can't wait to tell about this.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't boring. I mean, I wasn't bored for a second.
Well, what do you think what do you think we need to do now? Are you hoping for the peaceful transition of power? I mean, I've never seen it challenged so much like this.
Yeah, of course I'm hoping for the peaceful transition of power. I it's tough to predict what Trump is going to do. This thing last night about that blonde lady not signing the paper that she needs to sign is frustrating at best. And I think he's going to fire everybody who he thinks is disloyal. And I think he's going to put in place people that are not qualified, but that will back him up. And I think it's probably going to get ugly for at least a little while. And one thing I heard last night was that the year of Gore v. Bush, there's some analysis, I guess, by the intelligence community that says that 9/11 we would have been better prepared for had those 36 days not taken place. That we were behind in the transition. We were behind in putting people in positions, in him making his nominations or hiring people, and that made us more vulnerable. So I want to say two things. One thing is I hope that Trump gets over himself and gets out of there. And I also want to say I'm happy to serve as the head of any one of those organizations just till we can stay safe.
Well, you do have some experience. I think last time we spoke, you said you ran for 6th grade class president. Is that right?
Yes, and I keep thinking of that because I think, I conceded right away. It was me and Amy Hayes, and I went down. It was a tight race as far as I know, and yeah. And, it's funny because I think it was Fox that said that we needed to give Trump time to emotionally accept his defeat. I'm like, okay, is that in the Constitution? Do they say that? Did our forefathers say, let the loser have some space?
There's an emotional clause in there somewhere, an amendment, the emotional amendment in there.
Yeah, the emotional amendment. It got put in the 70s. No, I don't think we do need to do that. I think he needs to get out. He's, I don't know. He's just such a spoiler. My guess is right now he's having the blue room painted pink. He's just going to screw things up before he gets out of there. The other thing I don't understand is how can Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham support this thing about, oh yeah, they cheated on those ballots. Okay, but then doesn't that invalidate their election as well?
It would be a pretty crazy conspiracy to do it in all those 6 states just on the presidential level, but then allow McConnell to stay in the Senate.
Yeah, it strikes me that it would, but yeah. But what? We used ballots when Amy Hayes won. I was trying to think if we used a different method that was maybe easier to understand. No, I believe we used ballots. And by the way, in 6th grade politics, the hardest thing about writing a speech is that there are no issues. You really have no, even when you're class president in the 6th grade, you control nothing. You I remember that she had a suggestion box, and the reason she had a suggestion box is because suggestions about what?
Yeah, I remember.
You were not anything. The curriculum, the lunch, the nothing.
Right, exactly. I was 5th grade class president. I think the most I got to do was shovel dirt on a new tree we planted. That's it. That is it. You run promising maybe some candy to the students. That's all you know. There's nothing you're in control of then. It's much different.
No, in my speech, my campaign speech, I said that I would get the school to give us a soda machine, and that the teacher and some other kids said it too in their speeches. And the teacher, took us aside and said, "You guys, you can't say that because you wouldn't be able to get the school to give you a soda machine." So imagine how badly that prepared us for adult politics.
So true. That's so true. Well, remind our listeners really fast. I mean, we spoke a lot about this last time you were with us, but you were born in Alabama in 59. You were bussing tables at IHOP. Remind them really quick how you got into comedy and made your way to San Fran.
I did used to work at the IHOP, by the way, the International House of Pancakes, but I believe Trump has taken us out of that now. How did I get started? I worked at the International House of Pancakes in Orlando, Florida, and then I came back to Massachusetts. I went to Florida because I wanted to be a bear in the Disney World Parade, and yet I didn't get hired. And so I came back to Massachusetts. I was bussing tables at a salad bar place for a living, and there was I went to see actually a band at the Ding Ho in Cambridge, and there was a flyer on the wall that said they had comedy there every other Sunday night. And I went to see a comedy show, and I got to tell you, it was pretty bad. And but I was like, yeah, you know what? I can do that. And so they began having open mic nights at some point, and I jumped in with both feet. And so it's not like I turned my back on a law degree. I was 19 years old, and after about a year of telling little jokes in Boston at mostly open mic nights, I got on a Greyhound bus, and I went all around the country and up into Canada to see what comedy clubs were like in different cities. And I ended up, when I got to San Francisco, I so fell in love with the audience that I just didn't leave. And that's where I was for a long, long time.
Yeah, and once you were on the West Coast, tell me how important it was. I mean, I know Robin Williams, he changed your life. He discovered you. And also Dana Carvey, too. But explain how much those two, rest in peace to Robin, but how much they totally, changed your life.
Well, the truth is, any comic my age or younger owes a debt of gratitude to Robin Williams. Because now, I started in 79. By that time, Robin was already a big, huge star. Mork and Mindy was well up and running. He was just about to do Popeye, which I never saw it. My understanding is it wasn't a particularly great film, but there was certainly a lot of interest in it. And the excitement that he created, he certainly didn't invent stand-up comedy. It's been around since we were in caves, I imagine. But the renewed excitement in that form of entertainment that he created was all over the country, in part because he toured a lot. Any chance he could, he was on stage. And when, he could be at an amphitheater in Cincinnati, to 3,000 people or something. And when he came off stage, he would go to, Uncle Funny's Yuck House. He just did. And so there was this almost a palpable electricity around the country with this feeling that Robin Williams might stop by. And in San Francisco, because he lived there, there was more probability that he would stop by. And this made audiences come out, in part hoping to see him. And when they saw the rest of us, they kind of liked us. But but he really almost single-handedly created a renewed interest in stand-up comedy, and otherwise I certainly wouldn't have been able to make a living at it.
For sure. And then I know, you were touring for a while there in different places, but I know you became a household name in our living rooms with Jay Leno's Tonight Show, because I remember you were reporting from the conventions. Memories of that?
Yeah, I did. It was, you know what? It was my manager's idea. And it's not like it was right after Jay took over the Tonight Show from Johnny Carson. And, partly the idea was that I take my ignorance on the road. I followed politics by that time in my life, but I was still relatively new. For example, I was a sort of a roving reporter for the Tonight Show, like for the week of the Democratic convention and then the week of the Republican convention. And I had certainly never been to a convention before, and I hadn't watched very much of them either, but I had watched some, enough that I remember standing in one of the places, I forget, might have been the Republican convention that year was at the Houston Astrodome, I believe. And, or was in Houston anyways. And I remember seeing these hand carts stacked with Bush posters. And I was blown away because I thought people brought their own. I thought people like the way they did for Black Lives Matter. I thought people went into their garages or their, out on the sidewalk with their spray paint and made Black Lives Matter sign and tacked it to a board and carried it. But so much of the conventions were, scripted, and it was theater. And I was very surprised by that. Because I really had thought it was much more organic. But yeah, so I did the week in each place, and then that went so successfully. And when I did it, Jay would go to me like a couple times a night during the show and, ask where I was standing, and I would make a couple of jokes and tell about what I saw. But really, I think the reason it was effective was that I just didn't know that much about it. And so I was kind of discovering it as I told people, and it wasn't like the nitty gritty of politics that I was talking about by any stretch. But I think that my guess is partly because of cable news, which obviously has been, things like Fox News or OAN or these things where they just tell you, absolute crap, have not been helpful to the country. But my guess is some of the dynamics of politics people know more about now than they used to, as a result of, all the podcasts and all the, and all the cable networks and things like that. But back then, I don't know. I think there were a lot of people that were in my situation, we just really didn't know that much about it.
Right. And now everybody knows about it. And stand-ups like yourself are almost, you're coming to the Birchmere, you're almost expected to try to help us make sense of it. Chappelle, for instance, this is twice he's been tasked to try to bring the country together and make us laugh on the SNL following 2016 and 2020. What did you see Dave's set?
I didn't. I saw that he had been there and that it was successful and that he was credited with this, amazing set doing just what you described, but I did not see it. I don't watch a lot of other comics anymore, partly because I want to know that whatever I say came from me.
You want to feel like you invented the material.
Because sometimes, you inadvertently, you hear something somewhere else and you sort of forget that you heard it somewhere else, and somehow it works its way. I'll tell you, 1,000 years ago, when I lived in San Francisco, I lived with a guy who worked at a magic shop. And I was always broke. And because he had, a full-time day job, he had money, not a lot, but he had some money. So every now and then I would face the humiliation of going to him and asking if I could borrow like $5 or something, right? And he was a really nice guy, and so he would always loan me a little bit of money. But when he did it, he would take like a $20 bill or a $5 bill or whatever, and he would fold it and he would wrap it around his finger, and then he would say, "Oh, wait, here it is," and he'd pull it out of my ear because he was a magician. And so I thought to myself, boy, you know, the thing about magic is that it's just humiliating. It's like, here's a quarter, now it's gone. You're an idiot. And so one night I go to see some other comics. I didn't. Jerry Seinfeld was a headliner, but that's all he was. It wasn't no Seinfeld show yet. So I go with some friends to see Jerry Seinfeld one night, very soon thereafter that incident. And I swear I am not making this up. He does a routine where he says, "What's magic?" It's, you know, just makes you feel stupid.
Right.
Here's a quarter. Now it's gone. You're an idiot. I swear. I had never seen him before. I had never heard of him. I wrote that piece. I had never done it on stage. And there he says it.
You know, my theory on that is that these jokes are like hovering out there in the stratosphere at around the same time based on what's going on in politics or culture. And then those of you like Jerry or you know, you're kind of tap into it around the same time. It has to be that. I mean, it's impossible that you guys wouldn't make that joke at the same time.
Right. And there's but I mean, although that's not a time sensitive joke. I happened to have lived with a magician. I don't think Jerry Seinfeld lived with a magician, but we came to that joke separately. But if I had gone on stage and done it without having seen, you know, without knowing he did it, you know, everybody would say,
True.
"Oh, well, Paula Poundstone stole from Jerry Seinfeld." And so that's why I just got in the habit of not watching other comics. There was something I was going to tell you about that. Oh, I know, on Twitter. No. So I'm listening to Pod Save America the other day, and someone called Steve Bannon Vanilla Isis. I thought it was so damn funny that I tweeted about it. And I said, "Oh, one of the guys from Pod Save America just called Steve Bannon Vanilla Isis." And I said, you know, I bow down to them. That is just too funny. And then somebody else on Twitter writes, "Oh, Malcolm Nance wrote that like a few days ago." And I'm sure the same thing. I'm sure Malcolm Nance, who is not a comic for a living, nor are the Pod Save America guys, but I'm sure one didn't steal it from the other. I'm sure it just came up. But same thing. In that case, I could see where the idea came to both people separately.
Totally. And in case our listeners missed it, that was all reference to Bannon calling for Fauci to be beheaded, and that's why he's been getting banned from a lot of stuff. So
yeah,
Vanilla Isis.
I didn't even want to repeat the words. It's so shocking. By the way, do you think I hope that Fauci will be on the new, you know, in some form, if he wants to be on the new coronavirus task force. I don't know. I mean, it's not like I know the guy, but I've listened to him a lot, and they interview him on the news hour sometimes. And if he said it's good to go, then I'm all in. But I mean, if Trump says it, I'll just take the virus and put it beside the bleach in the cleaning cabinet and leave it at that. You don't know what's it. I mean, there could be. I trust Biden. He has a rescue dog. That's it. He's in.
Dog's back to the White House. All right. Well, like in closing, I mean, you kind of took us there anyway with COVID, but is this your first, you know, tour back doing live shows, limited capacity? I mean, this whole year has been a complete insane ride of not being able to have public events. So, you know, for a stand-up comedian like yourself, I mean, where are you in you know, dipping your toe back in the water there?
Well, first of all, I love the Birchmere. I work theaters all around the country, work theaters. And I had a very full schedule. I'm usually booked close to a year out. And so in March, like everybody else's life, things shifted. And as it happens, there are maybe four clubs in the country, music clubs, that I've continued to work for years just because I love them. One was the Birchmere. Another one was a place called Jonathan's in Agunquit, Maine. So Jonathan's was able to do a similar thing in July, where they move the table and, people wear masks and they follow the CDC guidelines for the state. So I was there in July, and I haven't been on stage since then and even with the Birchmere, like every day we say, every time I have to make a plan, I say, well, I think I'm going to Virginia in November, because things seem so up in the air all the time. But I believe it's close enough now that, yes, I'm going to the Birchmere this weekend. And I can't wait. As I say, it was the first job that I did in 2016 after Trump was elected. And there was something so magical about being with that group of people on those nights. I mean, our laughter was like explosive. It was so healing to be together. And although I've come back to the Birchmere every year, in the ensuing 4 years, I would say that this time around, once again, it will serve an almost medicinal purpose.
That's so great. Yeah. The energy in that room is, once again, like you experienced 4 years ago, will be unreal. Stuff you'll probably remember for your whole career, because the elections are sort of benchmarks, of where you are in time. So it's really cool that we at the Birchmere in DC area get to experience your thoughts every 4 years here. So hey, thanks so much.
Yeah, it was nice talking with you. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.